Now that you've created your Pantheon for Agencies account, it's time to create your first staging site so we can get started with WordPress. Now this is pretty easy, but there's a couple extra steps, and I also want to walk you through a little bit of the Pantheon dashboard because it can be confusing for new users. The first time that you log in, you're going to see this message here, and this is how we're going to create our new site. So let's go ahead and do that first, and then I'll walk you through the dashboard. So to create your new site, click on the Create New Site button, and that's going to open up a new tab. It's going to ask you for the name of your website, and it's going to ask you for an organization. Now the organization part you can ignore, but it's important to note that whatever you name your website, it's also going to create the development URL for that website, and these have to be unique, not just within your own account, but anywhere, because obviously we can't have URLs that are the same. But this doesn't affect anything else other than the name of the site within Pantheon and your URL. You can change the actual site name like within the website later on. I'll show you how to do that. So this is just more for reference and to set up our development URL, which only we are going to see. So just enter in your site name, and I'll just type in something I know is going to be available. And then once you've added in your name, you can see that the URL will update on the right-hand side, and click on Continue. And once you've done that, you're going to see this screen where it asks you to choose your CMS, and we're focusing on WordPress. So click on the Deploy button next to WordPress. Now it may take anywhere between 30 seconds to a couple minutes for Pantheon to set up your staging site and set up the WordPress files for us. And once that's done, I'll show you what to do next. Once your site is finished, you're going to see it's going to show a green bar and say complete, and then it's going to say visit your Pantheon site dashboard. So go ahead and click on that button. So each site has its own kind of sub dashboard within Pantheon that we can use. So the first thing I want you to do is click on this visit development site button. And just to kind of show you, this is where we're going to install WordPress for the first time, and that's also going to be the URL that you're going to use when you're working on your WordPress website. So first we want to quickly install WordPress, and then like I said, I'll walk you through a little bit of what you need to know from the Pantheon dashboard. So go ahead and select the base language that you're going to be using in WordPress. For me, that's English, and then click on Continue. And then we're going to set up our site basics. Now keep in mind you can change any of this later on. So just enter in a site title. And then you need to add in an admin username and password. Now this is the admin username and password that you're going to log in with and manage the site. It is not going to be displayed on the front end because we're going to be using separate editor accounts to add content and blog posts and such. So don't worry about it being branded to your site. This is a username specifically for you to log in with, and it's going to have complete control over your website. So you want to make sure that it's not something that's easy to guess, or that they'll be able to, assume, or whatever it is, like my business admin, for the login, or my business admin 1, right? We want to make it more complicated than that. Now, you should really be using a different username and password for every site that you build and every service that you use on the internet. And I understand that can be confusing and kind of complicated. So, use those those software on your computer, whether it's Windows or Mac, that can remember passwords, or I use a service called LattePress.com. That's LASTPASS.com to remember all of my usernames and passwords. But it is really important that we do that. It's just one of those few steps. Even though Pantheon is going to handle most of our security, as I talked about, it's one of the things that we can do as a website creator to keep our website secure. So go ahead and enter in a username and password, something complex that only you're going to be able to remember, or we can store in one of our password storage services. And then enter in a password, and of course we want this to be as complex as possible. Then enter in your email address, and make sure, because this is a staging site that we don't want to go live with yet, check this box to discourage search engines from indexing this site. When we go live, we'll disable that and we'll get started with search engines, but for now we want to discourage that. So go ahead and fill out this form, and then click on Install WordPress. Once you filled out that form, it's going to bring you to this page, which is going to show you your username and invite you to log in to the WordPress dashboard. So go ahead and click that login button, and then enter in the username and password that you just created. Once you've done that, you're going to be brought into your WordPress dashboard, and you're going to be ready to go through the next step of taking a tour through the WordPress dashboard, which is the next set of tutorials. You can also see the front end of your site. If you hover over this link in the top left and click on Visit Site, you can see the front end, and this is just a basic WordPress install. And we can go back to our dashboard by again hovering over in the top left and clicking on Dashboard, right? So for now, let's go back to our Pantheon dashboard, and I just want to show you a couple of things. So for right now, we are in our dev environment, and this is where this code tab is where we're going to see any changes that are made through the code of a WordPress website, something that I talked about in the Choose Your Host section. And then there's all these other items, but we're going to go through these as we need them. So right now, the most important thing is under backups. Remember that I said that with Pantheon, we need to take our backups manually. So in order to do this, click on the Backups tab. And then this is only when you need to take a backup. So, whether you want to do it once a day or when you've done a certain amount of changes, you don't necessarily need to do that now with a brand new site. But we would click on Backups, select how long we want to keep it for, and then just click on Create New Backup. And that's as simple as it is. It'll create a backup of all the different parts of your website. And then you're going to see this under code. So it showed that message before, but I click on the install later because we'll handle all that other stuff kind of later on with the multiple environments. But for now, I wanted to show you this, and it is important that this connection mode for right now, while we're working on our site, is an SFTP. When we want to save our changes on Pantheon side, and again, this is really optional. It really depends if you're going to be doing code changes. But if you are going to be working with a developer and such, and they want to make what's called a commit, and they'll tell you more about what that is, this needs to be changed to Git. But while we're working on our website, because we want to upload plugins and do different things with files, we need to make sure that it's on SFTP mode. So that's basically it for right now. We'll get into more complex stuff with Pantheon later on. But for right now, we just need to make sure that this is an SFTP mode and that we know how to take a backup for when we're working with our site. So for right now, click on the Visit Development Site button and click on the Site Admin button to open up these two tabs, our admin and our live site, and then move on to the next tutorial, which is going to take you through a tour of the WordPress dashboard and